Hi, I'm Stanton Wortham, the Dean of the Lynch School of Education and Human Development at Boston College. Today, I'd like to talk to you about academic job interviews. So if you're on the job market, you've sent in your cover letters, you've been contacted by a search committee chair or someone from the institution, you probably did a Skype interview or a Zoom interview as part of a preliminary round. Normally, the way the search would go is they'll contact a dozen people or so. Could be 6 or 8, could be 15, depending on the search and the institution. They schedule a Skype or Zoom interview with you. They talk to you for half an hour or an hour with the search committee. Then they'll deliberate and they'll figure out which candidates they want to invite to campus. And if you're fortunate enough to be one of those few candidates invited to campus, could be 2, 3, or 4, typically it's 3, then you should feel good about yourself. You managed to make it through a couple of screens and you managed to get yourself invited. The numbers of applicants for good tenure-track jobs at American universities is extremely fierce. There are a lot of people who want these jobs. They're good jobs. So first, there was a pool. Could have been 50, could have been 100, could have been 200 or more applicants. So if you made it to the top 10 or so that got Skype interviewed, then that's an accomplishment. If you made it through that screen down to the campus interview stage, then that's a remarkable accomplishment. So you have to figure out what to do. The most important thing to recognize about these on-campus interviews is that there's always a backstory. So an academic job to you as a candidate and applicant is a good thing. You're excited about the possibility of getting a job. This is what you've been working for. But try not to see it from your point of view for a moment. See it from their point of view. The faculty who are doing the hiring are people who, because there is scarcity of resources, they've been fortunate to get a job position approved in their field. So they're excited about that. This is a scarce good that they have been given, the opportunity to hire a tenure-track colleague. So they're excited about it, but they're also conscious that this is their one pot of money, their one opportunity to hire someone this year or in this period of time. And so they don't want to make a mistake, and there are lots of people who want a piece of this resource, this new faculty line. So it's almost certainly the case that the job description and the way people are thinking about it is a compromise. It's a political compromise. That means that there is more than one faction in this department or this program or this unit, and those factions had to come to some agreement over what kind of person they wanted to hire, and they will have to come to agreement over who in particular they're going to hire. So if you think about it from their point of view, you really want to know what are the relevant factions. Sometimes they're individuals. There's often a powerful individual or two who have significant say over who's going to get hired. It's almost always the case that there's a powerful individual or two who have the capacity to veto any candidate. But it's often also the case that there's a person or two or three who have significant say. So if you can figure out who those people are, it might be the search committee chair, often it is, but there might be other players at this college or university who have significant say over who gets hired. If you can gain any insight into who those people are or what the relevant factions are, there may be methodological factions, there may be groups of people who really favor one methodology as opposed to another, there may be theoretical factions, people who are really concerned with one particular approach as opposed to a different approach. And both of them may have some say and maybe be pushing for someone who fits their particular agenda. So if you know anyone who works at this institution or has been a student at this institution or has a friend who works at this institution, use any channels you can get in order to get information on who are the kinds of people who are present here, who do I have to pay close attention to, how do I position myself in a way that fits with what's happening. For example, when I got a job at the University of Pennsylvania, a long time ago now, in 1998, there were 2 groups of people, both of which I had some credentials in. So there were anthropologists who were interested in studying the anthropology of education, and there were developmental psychologists who were interested in studying the development of individuals in social context. And it turns out I had credentials in both of those fields, and I knew enough about the place to know who the critical faculty were who were strong in and believed in and wanted to hire people with those particular strengths. And because I had both sets of strengths, I tried to mobilize both of those factions to push for me. So there may have been a better candidate in the anthropology side of the pool, and there may have been a better candidate in the developmental psychology side of the pool, but because I could do both, I got people on both sides saying, well, he's a really good compromise because I like him, he's good, maybe he's not my first choice, but I know my colleagues will be willing to hire him too because he can also do what they value. So that's just one example, but you need to try to figure out what are the politics, who is it who's playing a central role, and how do you position yourself as someone who attends to, respects, and can contribute to each of whatever the core perspectives or factions are going to be that's going to make the decision. Understanding the job search process from the other side, from the hiring institution's side, helps you see that it's a contingent process. It's inevitable as a human to have your ego involved in this process. You think your work is good. You think you're an attractive person. You think you're the person they should hire. It's good to be confident like that. But you have to understand that the person they're going to hire relies on a set of contingencies that may be as contingent as what happens in a particular meeting. The search committee may have a conversation, people may have an argument in that conversation that may come down to a compromise candidate, and it may all get determined in just 30 minutes in a conversation. Or it may get determined before the search is even launched in the writing of the job ad when they reach some compromise about what combination of skills and background they need. So you cannot take this process personally. Do not act as if you deserve this job, you're great, you're the perfect person, how could you people not hire me? If they don't hire you, it's because it's contingent. There are probably lots of excellent candidates, and whatever combination of backgrounds and skills you have just wasn't the one they landed on. The best you can do is to try to position yourself as a candidate who can meet several of their needs, a candidate who has several strengths that fit with what they're after, and try to be sensitive to the particular individuals you need to attend to so that you can convince them that you have something that's particularly good for them. One last word of advice about job search, job interview, on-campus interviews. These are grueling sessions, so sometimes they're a day, sometimes they're 2 days. Often they involve coming in one day, doing something that day, then having a full day the next day before you leave. They'll involve giving a job talk. The job talk at most universities will be a research presentation, so you have to present yourself in a compelling way. But also meeting with many people, faculty, often students, sometimes administrators. You'll be asked to lunch and breakfast and dinner. It's critical that you understand that you are always on, so it will be tiring. Get some sleep beforehand. Do yoga or whatever it takes to relax yourself. Eat well. While you're there in front of someone, you are on. You are being interviewed. There's a tendency to say, phew, I made it through my job talk. I had a good talk with the search committee chair. Now I get to go to lunch and relax. Do not relax. At lunch, you're talking to faculty members, you're talking to students, and you can be sure they are going to report back to the decision makers about how you behaved at lunch. So even if it's lunch, even if it's an informal session with students, you must always be strategic about how to present yourself, what sorts of things to try to put forward about your background, and how to be a decent person. The last word, they're also hiring a colleague, so they want a researcher, they want a teacher, they want someone to contribute to what their program needs, but they're also hiring a colleague. You're going to be down the hall in an office and they'll have to look at you every day or every other day. So you also want to come across as the kind of person that you'd like to have around, because that, in many cases, will be a determining factor. So good luck. If you've made it to the stage of getting an on-campus interview, congratulations, and I hope that you can design a strategy for getting through and being the candidate they offer the job to. If you need more advice about this and other topics, please take a look at the DK Mentoring website. So long.